Here's what the inside of the pump looks like. Here's the sensor plug end. We need to remove this O-ring and put on the new sensor, as well as take that bolt out and somehow scribe a line down there so we can line it up again. Okay, so what we've got here today is a 99 Suburban with a 6.5 diesel. And I've had this Suburban for over 6 years now. It's been fairly reliable. We've had to replace some parts regularly. The inline fuel pump specifically. I used to carry a spare, so if it failed on a trip, I could just get out with the right wrenches and swap in the new one. I've since changed to a Raptor pump. That's been running for over a year now with no hiccups. But we've been getting some questionable starts and some no starts and intermittent running issues and timing issues, I would say, hiccups and such. The number one problem with these is the PMD, or pump mounted driver. Replaced that several times. I used to carry spares of those with me as well in case they failed. I upgraded to the newest version of that on a remote mounted heat sink, and that pretty much stopped all of those problems from happening. Haven't had any trouble with it up until this last 800-mile trip. We were about to return home and the thing wouldn't start. Cranked and cranked really strong, nothing. So managed to find an O'Reilly Auto Parts with a PMD in stock, picked that up, slapped it in, and it started right up. So I figured, oh well, that's the problem, you know. Turns out I shut it off and then it wouldn't turn back on. I luckily found a second O'Reilly's. I was able to swap out that PMD with a new one. I waited until we were all packed and ready to leave. I started the vehicle and didn't shut it off. And we drove for 12 hours without shutting off the engine. So we were able to make it back home. And then once we got home, I shut it off. You know, we parked, unloaded everything, went to start it again, nothing. I did some more research, found out really nothing conclusive. You know, everybody points to the PMD. Let it sit for longer, it started up. You know, we ran it here and there, short trips, everything worked fine. And then we had another trip about 100 miles to go to. We drove there just fine. We left there just fine. We started coming back, we stopped for fuel, and then no start. We filled up, sat at the gas pump for 20 minutes while I looked online for some ideas. Came across a thread on one of the diesel sites that had some troubleshooting steps. I was able to disconnect the optical sensor on the injection pump, and the engine started, not right up, but eventually it started. And apparently the crankshaft sensor allows the engine to still run with the optical sensor disconnected, and the engine runs in a backup fuel mode or limp mode. So with the engine running in limp, we made it back 100 miles to the house, and we've actually been running it in limp mode for several more trips, probably a couple of 100 miles. with no problems other than it doesn't move. So I ordered a optical sensor, found one on eBay for $255, come out of Florida. It was the only place that I could find to get one. Also found some instructions from O2 that somebody had made up about how to replace it. So that's what this video is. I'm gonna put my camera in a mount here and video me pulling the top off and replacing this sensor, and hopefully everything will work fine at the end. Okay, so we've got these sensors disconnected. Loosen these. Well, I guess I don't need to talk because I'm gonna fast forward all this nonsense. So. Okay, so as you can see here, this piece is the optical sensor. Here's the plug that I disconnected with a screwdriver from the outside when we were at that gas station. And so now I've got to take the 6 screws out of the top of the injection pump with a T27 Torx head driver. And then there's also a snap ring that's holding the optical sensor in place. So I'm going to do that now. I had to go and find a new T27 driver bit. I'm gonna have to get a syringe to suck out the fuel. So according to this write-up, there is a T40 Torx bolt holding the opto sensor down, and there is a mark in there apparently where the thing should be lined up to. I can't really see anything. It's kind of dark and shadowy, so I'm gonna have to get a flashlight or something. Here's what the inside of the pump looks like. Here's the sensor plug end. We need to remove this O-ring and put on the new sensor, as well as take that bolt out and somehow scribe a line down there so we can line it up again. So I'll try to figure that out. Okay, so I can't find a T40 wrench or driver anywhere. I got a 45, I got a 47, I got a 55, I got a 30. and I think I found a 35, but I can't find a 40, so we're gonna have to make a run up to the hardware store or the auto parts store. Hopefully they have one that we can pick up, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we just got back with this set of DeWalt bits. Got a T40, so we will hopefully have this sensor out in short order. Okay, so I got the new one in here. I've just got to get the light on my phone so I can see my scribe mark down in that dark hole to make sure I got it lined up before I tighten it back down. I've already transferred the O-ring. So basically after I tighten that sensor in, I'll be able to put the cover back on, snap ring, and all the screws and such, and then we'll give her a crank and see if she runs. Okay, so I got it lined up. You can't really see down there, but it's lined up on my scribe line as best as I can do it. I just tighten it down and then put everything back together. So I'm gonna put this camera back in the clamp and do all that stuff. Hey, come here. See? It's dirty, don't touch it. Okay, now you sit. So these screws in the top of the injection pump are actually a T25 Torx head. Just so you know, if you ever want to do this. Okay, it's all back together, and I'm gonna clean this papers and stuff off. I'll actually leave a link to this write-up by Roy Halverson in the show notes. So if you want to look at it, he's got step-by-step pictures pretty much outlining the whole thing. So I'm gonna just clear this out and we'll give her a shot. All right, you can see that it's running, and you can probably obviously hear it. It didn't take too much to get it going. So I'm not a professional mechanic. I do pretty much all of my own work unless I don't have time. And my partner here, who's watching and learning. That took me probably 2 hours, but one of those hours was spent looking for tools and actually going to the hardware store to get a Torx wrench that would fit the optical sensor. If you're having this issue with your 6.5 where it's intermittently starting, you've replaced the PMD but it still does it, definitely get a optical sensor. You can replace it very quickly, and you'll be back up and running, and you'll save yourself the cost of replacing the whole injection pump and the labor involved in that. All right, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.